Hey everybody, last weekend I attended the Gamers Guild Arizona Grand Tournament in Phoenix. It was a ton of fun. I ended up actually winning the whole thing with this Waru and Mac deck. We're going to be doing the deck profile today. Yeah, I really enjoyed the event. I won the first 5 rounds of Swiss, and then I actually lost to the second place player in the last round of Swiss, but then yeah, I was able to win through the top 8 bracket in the finals, switch it around and take that one 2-0 actually with this list. So yeah, just one loss all day to the mirror. Everyone's kind of figured out the meta, I guess, at this point. I think that there's still room for other heroes to do well, but at least in Arizona, a lot of people were just copying the best decks from Angers. And so yeah, it was, I think I faced 5 Waru, 3 Fen, and 1 Tasia throughout the day. So not a ton of variety, but I feel like my deck is really optimized, and yeah, I felt great into those matchups, especially in the mirror. I think I had a lot more experience than most of my opponents. Let's go through these card choices, and I'll try and give you an explanation for why I ran the different cards and at the rarities that I chose. This deck's super lethal. You can definitely try it on ladder and things. I don't think your opponents will like you for it, but yeah, if you're really trying to like win an important event or something, definitely take notes. I think that we're getting really close to an optimized list. I'll try and explain some of my less common choices, but yeah, let's jump into it. So we've got the hero, Waru and Mac, amazing. Lets you put your bureaucrats to sleep so you can use their effects for multiple days. Robin Hood. I honestly don't know what to say about this card. It's very, there's very strong opinions out there. You definitely run it. The biggest problem I feel like with this card is if you draw 2 copies, it's pretty much a free win, even in matchups where 1 copy isn't that good. So yeah, I don't know. A couple times throughout the event, I was able to get 2 of these together, and it's just pretty much GG for my opponents at that point. I honestly feel like it might be good if the effect didn't stack when you had 2 or something, because yeah, most of the time the deck feels pretty fair and you have pretty close games, but yeah, about the 20% of the time where you get 2 of these, it's pretty much just over for your opponent. Next, right up there, like just as good, we've got Ortis Attorney, one of the best bureaucrats in the deck. You really want to get 1 or 2 extra card draws from this or Ozma throughout a match to have a healthy hand, especially because I feel like it's important now to play more 1-drops and 2-drops to kind of like spread out your day, which means you'll need some cards to sustain that. And the stat line on this is huge, especially in the mirror when you're playing things like Legate and stuff. Having that extra 1 mountain to just have the better stats if you both like put out a bureaucrat is really important as well. I'm only running 2 Quetzals just because it is tight for rare slots, and I feel like Quetzal is very good into Fen and Trace in some matchups, but I think I don't know, it's even good in the mirror. It's a great card. I just felt like I didn't quite have the rare slots left. I feel like 2 was fine all day, and a lot of times Common Thoth is just as good. So I feel like while it is a really strong card, I think I wanted the slots for other things instead of a 3rd copy of Quetzal. And yeah, I was never sad to only have 2 all day. I also have 2 Frog Prince. I think that if I wasn't running a unique Frog Prince, a little spoiler alert, I would probably play 3 of this. It's amazing. 1-drops are so important. It's really important to have the option to win 1 lane while sleeping a bureaucrat on the first day in a lot of matchups against Fen, against the mirror. That's super strong because if you can like keep up in the expeditions while also sleeping bureaucrats, you can kind of like be ahead in the expeditions and on the board. And yeah, that's really important, I think. And so yeah, these are super good, and the troopers, which we'll see in a second. For the common bureaucrats, we have Thoth. I feel like that this one's another one you could cut down on pretty easily to 2 or something. It's pretty underwhelming. Most of the time you would rather play a 2-drop and a 1-drop, but I do feel like you need just like a certain amount of bureaucrats in the deck so that you'll always have 1-day 1. So especially with only 2 Quetzals, I think that 3 felt really good all day. There were a lot of games where I just had to play a Thoth because it's all I drew, and so yeah, I'm glad I had the extra bureaucrats in the deck. I think maybe it'll get like replaced as we get more cards in future expansions and things, but for now it did its job. And this one as well is a really good card. I mean, I think that honestly, the first 2 Frog, Legate are definitely my favorites. And Quetzal's like close up there, but yeah, Legate's super good for your 1-drop, 2-drop openers. And yeah, if you can line it up right to be able to sabotage your opponent, you'll be pretty far ahead at that point. You'll have to be careful sometimes with this one because the stats are slightly worse, but yeah, there are times where you can like play it into an opponent's frog prince and actually beat them out because of the mountain. So you have to be looking out for some of those things. For the non-bureaucrats now, I do have 2 Sandman. I think that I would probably run 3rd Rare Frog and just 1 Sandman if I yeah, wasn't using the name somewhere else. But I actually do like Sandman a lot, and I think that having a mix of Sandman and Quetzal is better than just only running Quetzals. In the like day 1, Quetzal's better, but for the rest of the game, I think that Sandman usually is. At the very end of the game, being able to sleep something while putting stats out is very strong, and yes, it's a lot better finisher. And even in the mid game, I think that Sandman's pretty much better than Quetzal. That it'll kind of depend on the day, but when you can get the expedition and like the region types to line up, it's pretty much the same where you play a 3-drop character and now you have something to sleep. But this one also will give 2 boosts to it on the next day, and so yeah, when things line up, I think that the Sandman is stronger than Quetzal, so I kind of like having a mix of them. Possibly the best card. I mean, it's hard to. One of the things I think is so good about Waru is it feels like every card is the best card in the deck. You don't really have any filler. They all have their different roles. This Trooper, super important. Only play the rare. In the mirror match, this is super good to be able to advance day 1, and against a lot of decks, having the extra mountain and water stat will be necessary to actually be able to advance on the first day. So yeah, this is perfect if you're facing Sigismar. It's great into Trace. A lot of times they'll have like a 1/2/1 or something. And yeah, in the mirror, if they play the 1/1/1 version and you drop this, it's over for them. So this is super important all throughout the tournament too. I think you kind of have to know when it's the right time to drop Robin and when it isn't. There were a lot of days, or like when is the right time to drop your big bureaucrats like Quetzal and when it isn't. There are a ton of days throughout the tournament where I'm just playing like a trooper and like a couple 2-drops or something instead of these more expensive cards. And it really helped me to be more reactive and just get better bang for my buck because like the stats on this are so good. I think that yeah, just like the value you can generate with this is incredible. It lets you sleep 2 bureaucrats a lot of the times because you just get so much stats while still having so much mana left that oftentimes like you can sneak in an extra sleepy character on both sides. When that happens, you're just so far ahead. Because I only have 5 1-drops since I don't have the Frog Prince, I did actually decide to use one of my common slots for Paper Herald. I think this is pretty uncommon, and I might not run it if I had 6 1-drops with just Frog Princes and Trooper, but yeah, with the way the list was, I think that this was better for me than Cadets and some other things. Against a lot of decks, against Tasia, if they just play like one character, Fen, or the Mirror, a ton of the time, your opponent just plays one thing, and if you just sleep your Bureaucrat as your first play, you'll always like have free reign at that point to put this on the right side so that it'll win an expedition. So yeah, in a lot of your games, this is just as good as the others, and I just wanted to have, yeah, one more Bureaucrat so that I could get my 2-drop, 1-drop opener more consistently. I think this is pretty good in the mirror, too. If your opponent has Robin Hoods out, you normally have to pay a lot of mana to do a 1-drop, and I think that, yeah, like, using the 1-drops to put a little pressure on a side can be super important, and now you can do this for 0 mana. I also run more charge and boosting effects, so being able to get like an extra character out with this can be pretty good for even just things like your removals. For the teamwork training, there we go, lost it for a second. For teamwork training, this can help you out and things as well, or Ozma. So this worked pretty good for me. I can definitely understand running other cards in its place, but I think it was exactly what I needed for this event. All right. So for some of the other common non-bureaucrats, or to spy, run 3 copies of this. There are times where it's not important, but it's never really a card that you hold in your opening hand, so having more copies just makes it so that you'll have it when you need it more often. super important in the mirror to be able to sabotage your opponent. Really good into Fen and a ton of other decks as well. Yeah, this card is really good. I feel like you already have so many things going for you in Waru. You can essentially like bank a ton of advantage with your sleeping bureaucrats, and you have a ton of disruption with like removal with your spells. And so I think that the sabotage is kind of like the last missing hole. You have the gate, but that's only after dusk. And so, yeah, this Order Spy, being able to play it early on and mess with your opponent's reserve, just gives you a lot more options. And yeah, it was super good all day. There's very few things I would change about this list. I can maybe tell you at the end, but yeah, I feel like a lot of these ratios are really refined at this point. I saw it in the tournament in France. A lot of people were messing around more with 2 copies of one name as a common and one as a rare, or like 2 rares and 1 common, or running a lot of like 2 of cards and things. But yeah, I feel pretty good about the ratios here, and I think that I'm almost running the exact same list I had before the Angers tournament. Pretty much the only thing I changed was I added the 1 Paper Herald after that. But yeah, I feel pretty good about all of this. The spells is one of the weaker parts of the deck where you have to run them for a lot of matchups, but there will be times where you draw too many of them and it is a problem. So if I'm going to change something, it's probably going to be here, or depending on rarities, things like adding that extra frog and taking out a Sandman. Maybe switching out the Paper Herald. But Sticky Notes, it is good. I like to have it as an option for random festivals, but moving forward, I think that Festival is honestly not that scary. Pretty much every time I faced a Fen, they never had enough cards in hand and reserve really to be able to pull off the Festival combo. And even if they did, if you have a Robin Hood out or a Teamwork Training in hand, you can probably stop it anyway. So then at that point, this is basically just for the mirror for Robin Hoods. And I think that it is pretty important in the mirror. It's mostly important just because if your opponent gets 2 Robin Hoods out, you're in trouble. But in a world where like they'd only ever have 1 Robin Hood, I actually prefer to play Quetzal or Thoth instead, because it uses up less resources since I'll get to get a second use out of those. And if you have enough stats on board, even though you won't be playing as many cards the next day as your opponent, you can still kind of keep up and trade anyway. So I don't know. This is important. There are a lot of times where I do keep it and use it in the mirror, but it is coming at the cost that you have this card that's dead in a lot of your other matchups, or you kind of start to run out of gas if you use things like this and don't have draw to follow it up. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this could get cut down. And especially if Robin gets like a nerf or something, this will probably be out of here. This one though, on the other hand, is like the best. Wow, like the best removal disruption, like surprise card in the deck. It's so good. You just take out everything with this. You're taking out your opponent's aloe veras, all sorts of stuff. Everything you remove with this is like an incredible deal. It's so easy to take out 3-cost, 4-cost cards. Take out your opponent's Quetzals. Yeah, it's like anytime you use this, it's basically game breaking. It's so good. You do run a little bit out of resources, but yeah, you get a lot of 2-0s because of this card. It's one of like the best. It's like when you play your bureaucrats, they're pretty much fair stats for their cost. So yeah, I don't know. Like if you're just playing Quetzals, Attorneys, Thoths, and things from hand awake, it's pretty hard for you to 2-0 your opponent and get more stats than them on the board. So the Trooper and the Teamwork Training, those are like 2 of the things that can really help you get more stats for your mana and like actually be able to 2-0 your opponent. I think these are super good. And then yeah, you can use this to mess up all sorts of setups. It's super good against Stephanus. Didn't see it all day, but like in that matchup it would be good. Against Tasia, insane. Against Fen, super good. They always play aloe vera. I think that maybe some of my opponents should have been a little bit more cautious, but it's kind of hard when you can't pick your hand. You just have to play what you're given. And so yeah, I was able to mess up a lot of Fen players and stuff with this today. This I'm running at 2. It was good at times. I think that I did feel like I was a little spell heavy at some points. I feel like the deck is so good and it works so consistently, and so it's like, why should you introduce any opportunity to have problems, I guess? And so while I did like charge a lot, I think that I'd probably cut it down to one moving forward because, yeah, it just opens up the opportunity you get a little too many spells. I'm not exactly sure what common I would put in place of it. I don't think it'd be a second Paper Herald. Maybe it would at this point be like one Cadets or something. I'll have to kind of think about it and just see like what decks are popular in the meta at the time. But yeah, this probably could go down to one just to kind of take away the chance that you draw too many spells or like run out of gas. It is super good though to be able to get two O's and surprise your opponent. And yeah, people weren't really expecting it since a lot of people are running one. So I was able to have it in like some pretty key moments. And with the Paper Herald and one of my uniques, I actually get a little bit more tokens, which makes it easier for me to use this. I think that too. One of the things I was really worried about was time, and so I think charge is really good for tiebreakers. That's one of the main reasons actually that put me to run two. But I only went into tiebreakers once all event. Originally it was supposed to be best of 3 50-minute rounds, but after like some people requested, they moved it to 60. And because I got a lot of 2-0s, I didn't really go into time that often. Sometimes I would finish 2 games in like 55 minutes, but then I was done. One time though, in like round 6, I did go to game 3 in a Waru mirror against ISIS, and so that was tough because yeah, there we were in time, but yeah, since I didn't see tiebreakers that often, this wasn't as good because you'll only really want to use this at like the very end of the game or to like really like close out a victory, and so in a game that doesn't go to tiebreakers, it's bad for most of the game. I don't know, but if you are worried about tiebreakers, think about it because yeah, when you have like your sleeping bureaucrats, you wake up, you start with things on the board, you play stuff from your hand, and then you drop this. It's pretty easy to win both sides. All right, so let's finish it off now with we can just throw out our uniques here quick. So all of these were really good. I'm super happy that I was able to find 3 I feel like powerful uniques that really fit my deck for this event. I know that a lot of people decided to bring Waru pretty close to the tournament, and so they just kind of played whatever they could get, but I pretty much knew I was going to play this deck at the first event even before the official release because I did get to play in some of the like Exalt League events and things, and I had already like started doing testing on Tabletop Simulator. So this has been on my radar in like my top 6 decks for a while, and so I was really looking for the uniques. The other ones I was considering pretty heavily were Tasia and Aphanis. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I mean, I was considering Sigismar as well at the end. But yeah, pretty much those 4 are the only ones I was looking at, and I didn't find the uniques I needed for Tasia, and I found them for Aphanis, but only digitally. So I was pretty much just like guaranteed to be playing this by the end. To go with the charges that we were already looking at, I actually do run a couple more uniques that are essentially a charge. So we have this Kakoba 3 cost. It's if you have 4 more characters, the characters you control gain 1 boost. I know that at the event, some people started, like my uniques kind of started to be, like gain some renown, I guess. I know that people were like, oh yeah, I've heard about this one when I played them. So yeah, this was super good. I know some people have one that's 3 costs from the reserve as well. That is probably better, but there are actually a lot of times that I use the support ability, just like with Paper Herald, to be able to do something sneaky with the charge, or just to pair with teamwork training or something, or just because it is so expensive, sometimes you get more value out of just having the 0 cost 1/1/1. But yeah, the times you play this from hand, super good, really easy to win both sides, buff up sleeping bureaucrats while taking both expeditions. To go with that, we also have another similar Kakoba. I think the Kakobas are pretty strong. There are Paper Heralds that do similar things, but I feel like their stats are usually pretty weak, and so even though these cost 1 more, they can have a pretty good impact on the board. It's another reason too that I want a lot of 1 drops, because since these guys do cost 3, I pretty much need to have like a 1-drop if I want to play multiple cards in a day with one of these. So this one, it just gives 2 boosts to 2 characters. The first one definitely has the potential to boost more things and get a higher total board impact, but this one's really good at going all in on one side and surprising your opponent, and it does cost 3 from reserve, which is super nice. Yeah, even if you just have 1 token in an expedition, you can play this out, boost itself and that token, and then now on that side, you'll be able to get an additional 6, 5, 6 in stats. So if you have like, if your opponent thinks you're going for 1 expedition and that you're like trading and conceding a side, this can be a really good way to surprise them, and then all of a sudden now you take both expeditions with your final play and they're just not really ready for it. So both of these were super good. I think, yeah, I would consider playing either of them again. I'm actually just borrowing this one from another YouTuber and one of my teammates, a guy trying. I saw it in his video and asked if I could borrow it. But this one is mine, so you'll probably see it in some of my decks moving forward. Now, the last bureaucrat you knew is coming from earlier when we were talking about the Frog Prince. Yeah, this card's super cool. I saw it on the Discord at some point, and then I like reached out to the person, and we were in contact for a long time. A holy relic. So yeah, thanks a ton for making the trade and letting me get this card. It was good all day. I like it a lot. It's fair stats, 2 cost 2/2/2 from hand. Just another card that you can play day 1 with the 1-drop, and then when another character, non-token character, comes into play, you can create an Ortis 1/1 soldier token and target expedition. So it's kind of just like a 2-cost Quetzal or something almost, where you can get several tokens out of it, but it also can be paired with the 1-drop on the first day. And then sometimes in the late game, you can get like 2 or 3 tokens out of this in a day, which can just start to get like pretty unfair for the amount you invested into it. This is another reason too why I had those charges and things, but honestly, it's usually enough stats on its own that you don't even really need the charge to pair with it. So yeah, this is the list. For some shout outs, I really want to thank my wife and my family for supporting me in the channel and in the events like these. It takes a lot of time, but they're always right behind me, and so yeah, I really appreciate it. I also want to shout out my team, the Exalts, and my friend James, who's from Arizona and came to the event with me. He got 10th place playing Traced, only lost any games to Waru. I'll try and get his deck profile on my channel soon as well. Shout out to Pacific Northwest, where I'm from, my locals. I go to a couple different ones. I go to Portland Game Store, Guardian Games, Red Castle Games. Hopefully they'll keep having more and more events if you're in the area. Yeah, let them know you're interested in Altered or try and make it out. Yeah, thanks as well, of course, to Gamers Guild for hosting this event. It was really well done. It was super exciting to have an event so close to the launch of the game, and their store is amazing. I hope to be able to go back there soon for more tournaments. Thanks so much to you all, my subscribers, friends, fans, family, everyone out there. It's been a ton of fun doing this Altered journey, and I feel like getting to win this first in-person event that I attended was, yeah, just like the perfect confirmation that I really have been learning and growing as an Altered player throughout the last couple of months and ever since I found out about the game during the Kickstarter. I hope to bring you a lot more exciting decks and tournament results in the future. I promise I'm not only going to be playing Waru, and I'm not only going to be playing the most popular picks, especially with uniques right now and no marketplace. It can be kind of hard, and your options can be limited just to what you have. But in the future, I'm going to make sure that I can get more interesting decks on the channel too, and have some surprise decks hopefully perform well in tournaments and bring those to you as well. If you stuck around this long, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a lot more content coming from the Gamers Guild event in the next couple of days. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching.